Hello everyone, this is Mech-Eye, back with World of Tanks. We are doing some exciting coverage today on the 8.8 test server version 2, and today we're going to take a look very excitedly at the 112, the Chinese heavy tank. That's going to be a new premium for us in World of Tanks once 8.8 decides to grace us with its presence, which I am looking forward to for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of great changes coming to this game with 8.8, and many of them are aesthetic. A couple of them are gameplay based, and then there are, of course, new tanks. The Germans are getting some new tanks and some modifications. The Russians are getting some new tanks. Not really any modifications though, and we're getting 2 new premium tanks. And the premium tanks are really what I'm most excited about. I mean, new tanks are great and all, but I'm not super excited about them. One of them, the German one, is I've already done. It was one of the first lines I went up, and they're just kind of modifying in a way that doesn't really affect me. And then the Russian medium line, I'm not so sure how I feel about it, but I might touch on those if I feel like I've got time before the test server gets out into normal release, but we'll see. But today I want to look at this, the 112 heavy tank, mostly because I think it's a very interesting tank for them to add, because it's very similar to another premium tank that we have already in this game that's named the IS-6. Boom. Which you can still buy. They have damn near the same gun. They're both very strong in armor. They're both not very fast, or at least not very maneuverable. And they both get Tier 9 preferential matchmaking. And they're both basically Russian tanks. So I think it's kind of interesting that they released this tank at all. And I think you'll see curiously that Wargaming's doing this with 3 tanks on this next release. I've watched more than one review of the new Tier 10, the Object 140, which looks like it's almost a carbon copy clone, albeit shrunk, of the T62A. And then there's the T34-3, which I'm going to cover in a separate video, which has even more of an issue. But this is the one we're looking at, the 112, which seems to be a bit of a clone. Or is it? Well, it's a bit of give or take here. Let's go through and look at the side-by-side stats. So here they are. Let's see. So the 112 is on the left, the IS-6 is on the right. We'll see that the 112 has 50 less hit points compared to the 1550 on the IS-6. However, the 112 does way less. It's about 4 tons lighter. It's about 6 tons lighter, fully loaded. These both are fully loaded with equipment. Being lighter, though, it has a lot less engine power, which doesn't quite translate in the acceleration, which I'll show you in the gameplay. Only 580 horsepower versus 700. The IS-6 definitely accelerates faster. However, the 112 has a higher speed limit at 45 kph, as opposed to 35 kph on the IS-6. And you'll see that does make a difference as well. The traverse is the same. Their hull armor is very, very close. It's 120 on the front, with a better slope and no glaring weaknesses on the IS-6. But the side armor is worse at 80 versus 100 on the IS-6, and they both have 60 rear armor. Although I think the IS-6 is probably still a little bouncier on the rear just because of the way it's shaped. I've bounced weird-ass shots off the IS-6. Turret armor, the 112 on paper has a ton more turret armor, although they're both pretty trollish from the front. The cheeks can be a little weak on the IS-6 to high penetration guns. I don't think this will suffer the same fate, although if you're facing another 112 with its preem rounds, that might be a different issue, because the preem rounds are one of the premier differences, but I'll get to that in just a second. Continuing on with their hull armor, or turret armor, we got 130 on the sides, but this has got a kind of a better rounding to it as opposed to the flat cheeks and side turret of the IS-6, so I think this will probably bounce a little bit more. And then the 60 on the back is obviously worse than the IS-6's, but it's rear turret, you don't want to get hit there. So, rate of fire is a big difference. We got 4.55 versus 5.13, so there's a big difference there. Turret traverse is actually a tad bit faster on the 112, as 26 degrees a second as opposed to 24 degrees per second on the IS-6. The view range is also better on the 112, which is a nice addition, because the 350 was almost unacceptable on the IS-6. Signal range is also a lot better too. Not so much a big deal, that one, because you're a heavy tank and you shouldn't really be too far. So on paper they look pretty similar. They look like they're going to serve the same task. However, the differences do show themselves when you're looking at the guns. And here we got the D30 of the IS-6, and here is the 122 D25TA of the 112, which is the same gun that you're going to see on the WZ-111 and the T-34-3, the other premium tank that I'll be reviewing after this one. So, they're both 122s, but the rate of fire is lower on the 112, and this is probably due to the fact that the 112 is a bit of a stronger tank in terms of armor, and it's also a little bit faster in a straight line. Penetration's the same, except for this, 250, because this tank is a Chinese tank that shoots heat, so it gets 250 gold penetration as opposed to 217. That's a big difference. A big difference. And yes, these gold rounds are very expensive, but this is a gold tank, so people will be shooting gold with it. Same alpha, same accuracy, same aim time, same weight. So the differences are rate of fire, which is lower on the 112, and it is very painfully slow. Even fully crewed up and with rammer and all that fun stuff, it's still really slow. But the gold rounds are different with the higher penetration, which I think is a really big buff compared to the IS-6's issue of penetration. So I think in general this is a stronger tank because of the front armor, which does not have any glowing weaknesses as opposed to the front hatch in the IS-6. So that's the big differences. They're about the same size. The turret's a little bigger on this tank, but it's also a little bit rounder. The cupolas are definitely higher on this tank and probably easier targets. The lower plate is probably about the same size. They're both very long and they're both very weak on the sides. It doesn't seem like they have spaced armor, and if they do, it doesn't very thick. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty standard looking heavy tank, and it's very similar to the IS-6, so it's kind of a tough decision. It's kind of weird to see why Wargaming did this, but the changes, the heat rounds, as opposed to the APCR and the IS-6 is definitely welcome, and you're trading off for in the rate of fire. But this does have a higher top speed, and it's not a minor difference. It's 10 kph of difference. And both these tanks will hit their top speeds. The IS-6 hits its 35, and this will hit its 45, as I'll show you in the video coming up. I think we're just going to do one video for you here. So let's get into a battle and show you what this thing can do. Oh wait, one thing, forgot. Gun depression. Gun depression is awesome on this tank. I knew I was forgetting one thing. The gun depression on this tank is great. I don't really think I get a chance to show you it per se in the video coming up, but take my word for it, it's better than the IS-6, and I think it's better than most Chinese tanks. I have not played past the tier 7s. I'm at the IS-2, which doesn't have great gun depression, but this baby's got some. So just to let you know, that's also a nice perk to this tank. So let's get it into some gameplay. Alright guys, I have some gameplay here for you of the 112, the Tier 8 Chinese Premium Heavy Tank. First thing I'm going to bring to your attention, and I think I'm just going to do one video for the simple fact that getting on a test server and having a solid game is difficult. I mean, having a good game yourself doesn't happen all the time, and having a good game on a test server is reliant on a lot of factors that are outside of your control. Most of that is people shooting themselves, shooting you, suiciding, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And people just generally not taking the game super seriously, being way too defensive or way too offensive. But this was a very pleasant surprise. This game turned out really well. The team played very well together, and I thought I got a great idea of what this tank is like in this game. This is a good heavy tank map, Arctic region. Just normal standard battle. And one of the things I want to bring to your attention first of all, and I have a tank, out in the open, you can see it, is just how massive this thing is. It's huge. It's a huge tank. And the camera's acting kind of weird right now. I don't know what's up with that. But anyways, this tank's gigantic. It's really long. I mean, it's not very tall per se, but it's really big. And that is definitely one of the weaknesses of it. Now, next thing I'm going to bring to your attention is, check this out. That is an IS-6. And we are passing him, myself and another 112. We are passing him at almost 50 kph. That's impressive. This thing's fast when it gets out in the open, gets on flat land, and gets up to speed. It doesn't accelerate very fast, or God, does it not turn any fast, or turn fast at all. It doesn't. But its speed is impressive. So I would say there is a possibility that you can relocate with this tank. So here we go. Now I was wondering here if I could get a side shot on a shallow angle, and I did. And that was, I'll bring it to your attention, I'm shooting AP. No gold here, even though most people are shooting gold on the test server. Which makes trying to figure out your own armor kind of tricky. But for my purposes, I'm just trying to figure out how the gun is. And it's very similar to the IS-6, so I guess there really shouldn't be any surprises here other than the slower rate of fire. But another thing I did notice there is the weakness of the front sprockets on this thing. I just penetrated him at a really shallow angle through the front sprocket, and that one was through the lower plate. Again, just AP, no premium. So there are some weaknesses on that armor to pay attention to. And again, this is just a test server, so maybe it's not perfect. We'll see. But this game was from test server version 2. Here's a Jag Tiger 88. See if I can pen his lower plate. Straight on shot, and it just didn't do it. Now, it did not penetrate. However, he took a shot at me and penetrated. And again, this camera angle is really funky. It's acting like I'm still in the entry mode. But anyways, look at this. It penetrated the upper plate on the armor, but it looks like it almost went through the side of the tank. And I don't know if there's spaced armor there, kind of like all the Russian tanks. I couldn't really tell, but it did pen. I can't tell if it was a premium round because the Jag Tiger shoots APCR, so I have no idea. I couldn't hear the heat sizzle. So I'm going to assume it was APCR, but he still penned me through that spot right there. So the side armor is definitely very vulnerable. You want to be very careful and keep this tank on a super shallow angle. I'm going to put this back into my mode. Yeah, so watch out for that. There are some weaknesses. Yeah, so I even take a look at it like, oh, what the hell did he pen me? But I had trouble penning his lower plate, and he's only at a slight angle to me. So here I'm going to try it again. Aim it in. It went low, but it didn't do it. And the other 112 behind me shot him, but it might have been with premium, which is heat. And it's 250 pen on this gun, which is impressive. It'll definitely keep you alive against tier 9s. These are expensive rounds in this tank, though, so keep that in mind. Just sailed over the low there. I was having trouble with things sailing over the top, even though they looked like they hit. I was lagging a little bit on test server because I'm in the USA. It seems like our test server, that was an awesome shot on the cupola of an IS-6. Really nice. Let's see here. There's another 112. See if I can put one through his cupola. Again, looked like it hit the cupola, but it just sort of went through. I don't know if that was the lag on the server or what it was. And the lag was really tricky. It was in the 150s. So, I mean, it was just like a split second of delay, but, I mean, I'm used to snappy 40 frame or 40 ping. So, it kind of messes with you a little bit. You have to adjust to it. And I think I did, but it took a little bit of time. But again, some things weren't perfect. It's test server, so not a big deal. But I did get the one really nice cupola shot on the IS-6, so it does work. I don't even know where that hit. I don't even know what tank that is. Oh, it was an IS-6. I think I got his side of his turret. This guy is going out for hero mode. No, I just don't think so. Right into the side armor. Nice pen. Again, still shooting AP. This is a good map to show how heavy tanks work. The Arctic region, the hill, is a great region for heavy tanks to do some work and show what they've got. Right there, I believe... I can't see because of the smoke, if I'm not mistaken. I can't tell. Yeah, there's too much smoke. But I think I got penned on the... We'll take a look at this after the battle. I had a shot on the IS-6, but I decided to take the side shot on the low for guaranteed penetration. Always a good idea. Get the low out of there if you've got a free shot on a low. Their guns are really punchy. Try not to shoot my teammate right through the hatch on the IS-6. Good to know that weakness is still exploitable. Again, it should be. The IS-6s can pen each other all the time in that hatch. So, with just AP, not heat. So at this point, I see that we've got this flank in hand. So I'm going to decide to go back to base and play a little defense, see how the relocating speed is on this tank. And I noticed it was pretty peppy before. And here I'm kind of looking at the armor. I see I took a side shot. That was one from the IS-6, I believe. Again, the side armor seems to be very, very, very weak on this tank. Looks like I had one maybe through the... Looks like one went in the turret ring and one bounced on the turret ring, so that was nice. All the shots I took were from 122, so they do a lot of damage, hence I'm almost dead. Just relocating, just relocating. Actually, I should speed this up a little bit. Sorry, I was typing on an email. Doing a little multitasking. Okay, and here we go. We got I think that's T-34-3 who's engaging a Pershing and a Super Pershing and something else. Oh, I think it's the new Tier 8 medium. Pershing, side shot, yeah, that's gonna pen all day. No problems there. Super Pershing poking out, and I'm doing a little bit of peekaboo / side scraping. Ammo rack on the Pershing, unnecessary, but don't we all love overkill? I know I do. I love overkill. Alright, so Super Pershing, I think. Oh, it was a T-34-3 that was over there, my bad. Not the Tier 8 Russian medium. And I took a really bad shot there. I had a shot at the weak cupola on the Super Pershing, and it just, for some reason, I aimed right. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was drunk. I gotta go home. So drunk. This guy's getting surrounded now. This is pretty much over. I don't think I can get another shot on him. Nope. He's dead. Alright, so we will get to the end plates. Alright, we're looking at the results from that battle, and it was a solid one. I got my mastery badge on it. Haha! I mean, that doesn't really mean anything on the test server per se, but considering a ton of people are playing that tank right now, as you didn't notice by the fact there was like 7 112s in that battle, people have been testing these things pretty crazy, so I was pretty happy to come out with that. And I mean, look at the payout result right there.
Excuse me, boss. You have a text message.
Excuse me, I have a text message. So it was a really good result. I believe this was with... Oh no, I didn't have premium at the time. So even with premium, look at the money I would have made, $133,000. But again, you can't take the results from a test server really seriously. So looking what we are though, the results got almost 3,600 damage. So the gun puts out. I mean, this is pretty similar to how I have an IS-6 battle, like a good IS-6 battle at least, with 3 kills and really good earnings. And you know, I had plenty of bounces. Here, we'll take a look at that. I actually had 2 bounces. Yeah, 2 bounces of the shots. 4 that missed. A couple of those were those cupolas that just seemed to phantom away from me. A lot of ghost shells there, but you know, 12 penetrations, or 10 penetrations of 12 is not bad. A couple of shots definitely could have been aimed better on my part. But, you know, that's what this gun is not very accurate. So, plenty of damage there at 3,600. Potential damage received is only 1,890. A few of them pen me, but again, taking the armor into consideration is pretty difficult when you're on the test server, just because everyone's flinging gold all over the place, and it's hard to tell if they're shooting APCR at you, and, you know, you can tell if heat's being shot, but not a lot of guns shoot heat. So it was a fairly good result, and you can see here what I would have gotten. Again, can't take it into complete consideration, but they were doing all kinds of missions on test servers too. So what I'm going to take away from this is the 112 seems to be a pretty good heavy tank. I think it's probably a bit superior to the IS-6 in some situations. I think the IS-6 is in general a more bouncy tank all around in terms of rear and side armor. But I think frontally, there's very few things that are better at Tier 8 than the 112. It's just a monster. Now, that weakness on the corner above the wheel sprockets is kind of weird, and also we did notice that the sides got penned pretty easily if there was any kind of slope on them. So, yeah, you know, it seems like it's still going to do some work, especially since, you know, in that situation on the map was a good example of what a heavy tank can do, and it did a great job. I mean, granted, I wasn't high tiered. Again, preferential treatment means I'd only get Tier 9s. Even still, I still think it was a good showcase of what this tank can do. And it's relatively quick. The downsides are definitely it's very weak side armor and very weak its size, its silhouette. The sprocket is a bit of a concern. The gun isn't great, but the front armor is very trollish. It moves pretty quickly. It doesn't maneuver very fast, but it is a heavy tank after all. The view range is better than the IS-6, and it looks better. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting tank. I think it's probably better than the IS-6, but the rate of fire is also nerfed too compared to the IS-6, so it's a bit of a toss-up. I have the IS-6, so buying the 112, I don't know. I don't know. And T-34-3 also makes it a bit of a conundrum, and that's going to be the next tank I review for you real quick. Probably the same format, just a quick talk, and then one battle with it, maybe two if I can find another decent one I had. The T-34-3, if anything, suffers worse with test server woes than the 112 because of both the gold armor sling, or gold ammo slinging, and the fact that medium tanks really need teams that work together. At least I feel like medium tanks profit better when teams work together. So we'll see how that is. So this is a quick preview / review on the 112. Definitely a tank I'm going to be considering buying, and probably one you should too, especially if you don't have any heavy tanks. Although I'd still have a hard time recommending this tank over the T-34, just because I feel like T-34 is going to make it earn more, which is why you buy premium tanks. So, but they're different styles of tanks, so it's something you got to consider. So coming up next, we'll look at the T-34-3. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and please like it. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below, and I'll get back to them, and our friendly other watchers will hopefully comment too. And this is Met Guy signing off.